My daughter came home that Thursday evening with her husband's cologne still clinging to her coat, and that particular brightness in her eyes she only gets when something has gone exactly the way she planned it. "Mama," she said, and she only calls me Mama when she wants something. Leah got the regional director position. "We're taking everyone to the ivory table tonight to celebrate." My heart lifted. The ivory table. That was the restaurant on the corner of Halsted and Vine. The one with the white linen tablecloths and the candles that drip wax onto silver holders. The kind of place where you dress up, where you linger over dessert, where families make memories. I was already thinking about what to wear. That was my first mistake. My name is Seraphina Mills, and I am 67 years old. For the past 4 years I have been living in what was once my own home. The house I bought alone after my husband Isaac passed. The house I painted with my own hands. The house where I raised Leah from a girl who was afraid of thunderstorms into the woman who now tells me, with a smile so sweet it could curdle milk, "Don't worry about getting ready, Mom. This is really just for Leah's close support circle." Her close support circle. I am her mother. But I said what I always say. I said, "Oh, okay." And I watched them leave. Let me go back. Because this didn't start on a Thursday night over a promotion dinner. This started the way most slow disasters start, quietly and with love as the excuse. The sound of a car pulling out of a driveway. A house going quiet. A woman standing alone in a kitchen she has cleaned 1,000 times, holding a container of leftover soup with her name written on it in her daughter's neat handwriting. She doesn't shout. She doesn't cry, not yet. She sets the soup container on the counter, and she reads her own name on the label, the way you read a stranger's name on a gravestone. Something cold settles in her chest. The whole family is at Hartwell's right now. Leah ordered the reservation 2 weeks ago. Seraphina heard her on the phone. Excited, laughing, listing names. Clyde's parents. His brother Emmett and his wife. Lydia and her husband. Cousins. Friends from work. Not Seraphina. Seraphina found out she wasn't invited the same way she finds out most things in her own home now, by accident. By being in the hallway when a conversation happened in the kitchen. By being invisible enough that people forget to lower their voices. "Mom would slow everything down," Leah had said. Just like that. The way you say the traffic is bad or it might rain. A practical observation. A logistics problem solved. She would slow everything down. Seraphina, who got up at 5:30 this morning to iron Clyde's shirts for the work week. Seraphina, who made the potato salad Leah brought to Emmett Cross's dinner party last month and received no credit for. Seraphina, who has paid the property tax on this house, her house, the house she and Harlan bought with 31 years of careful living, every single year without complaint. She sets the soup on the counter. She walks to the hallway closet. She takes out her coat, and from the inside pocket, she removes a sealed envelope. She has been carrying it for 3 days waiting. She sets it on the kitchen table, weighted down by the ceramic rooster her mother Maybelle gave her 40 years ago. Then she picks up her car keys. She is not going to Hartwell's. She is going somewhere much better. By the time Leah came home that night, I was already 200 miles away. By the time she opened that envelope, the house had been sold for a week. And by the time she finally understood what she had lost, it was not a house she was mourning. The kitchen at 5:45 a.m. Seraphina is already up. She moves through the space with the ease of someone who has owned it for 22 years, because she has. She knows which drawer sticks in the humidity. She knows which burner runs hot. This kitchen is hers the way her own hands are hers. This is her house. The audience needs to feel that before it's taken from her. She makes coffee, a full pot though she only drinks 1 cup. Leah and Clyde expect the pot to be ready when they come down. This is not something that was discussed. It simply became true the way many things became true after they moved in, gradually, then completely. Harlan in this same kitchen, dancing badly to the radio on a Sunday morning. His hands around her coffee mug to warm them. "Sarah, this is the best kitchen in the world because you're in it." She had laughed at him. She would give anything to laugh at him again. Leah comes downstairs without saying good morning. Not from cruelty, from habit. Seraphina has become part of the furniture. You don't greet the furniture. Clyde follows, already on his phone, already discussing something at a volume that suggests the rest of the house doesn't exist. Small dialogue exchange, Maximum 4 lines. Leah notices the coffee is made, says only, "Is there cream?" Not thank you. Not good morning. Just is there cream. Seraphina gets the cream from the refrigerator. She notices she has not been looked at directly since Tuesday. Leah leaves a handwritten grocery list on the counter before she goes to work. It is detailed. It specifies brands. It specifies quantities. At the bottom, in a different color pen as an afterthought, also pick up Clyde's dry cleaning, tickets on the hall table. There is no please. There is no if you don't mind. Seraphina picks up the list and reads it. She folds it precisely and puts it in her pocket. She remembers when Leah was 9 years old and left her a handmade card that said, "Mama is the best person in the world." She still has that card. It's in her bedside drawer. She has looked at it less and less because it has started to feel like evidence of someone who no longer exists. Seraphina goes out to tend the front garden, one of the few things that is still entirely hers. Clara Bonner from next door leans over the fence, warm and easy. Short exchange, no more than 4 lines of dialogue. Clara mentions she saw Seraphina's car in the driveway every day last week and asks if everything is all right. Seraphina says of course. She is fine. She is just staying close to home. She does not say, "I have not been anywhere alone in 2 months. I do not go out unless I am running errands for them. I have begun to wonder if that is by accident." Dinner. Seraphina has cooked. A proper meal, 40 minutes of work. Leah compliments the seasoning to Clyde, speaking about the food as though it appeared by itself. Clyde tells a long story about his colleague Emmett Cross and a deal he closed. Seraphina tries to contribute once, a small observation about the neighborhood where Emmett apparently lives. Leah talks over her. Not aggressively, just talks over her. The conversation moves on. "I used to be a teacher. 23 years. I stood in front of rooms full of people and held their attention. I read stories aloud and children leaned forward in their chairs. I do not know how to account for the person I have become in this house." That evening, Seraphina goes to her room, the room that used to be the primary bedroom, now that Leah and Clyde have taken the larger one because the closet space just makes more sense for 2 people. She opens the small leather notebook she keeps in the drawer beneath her good jewelry. She adds 3 lines to it. She has been adding lines to this notebook for 7 months. She closes it. She puts it away. And she sleeps. A Thursday evening. Clyde comes through the front door with the particular energy of a man whose good news is larger than he can contain. He got the promotion. Senior Vice President. Effective the following Monday. It is genuinely a significant achievement. Seraphina is in the sitting room. She hears Leah's exclamation, hears Clyde's laugh, hears the sound of them celebrating in the kitchen. She waits. She expects to be called in. She is not called in. She walks to the kitchen doorway herself. Brief moment. Clyde glances at her, nods, goes back to his phone. Leah is already calling her friend Lydia. I stood in the doorway of my own kitchen like a visitor who was not sure if she was allowed in. Over the next hour, Seraphina hears the dinner being organized. Hartwell's is mentioned. The reservation is made. Names are listed. She hears her own family members' names, cousins she hasn't seen in months. She hears Clyde's parents being called. She hears Lydia's husband's name. She begins to understand that she is not being included, but she tells herself she must be mistaken. Surely she has simply not been asked yet. Surely Leah is coming to find her any moment. She waits. Leah does not come. Maximum 5 lines of dialogue. Leah, passing through the sitting room to go upstairs and get changed, stops at the doorway. She is already in a good mood, one of those moods that makes people thoughtless rather than cruel. "Mom, we're heading to Hartwell's in about an hour for Clyde's thing. You don't need to wait up or anything." Seraphina. "Am I not coming?" Brief pause. Leah's expression. Not unkind, just efficient. "Oh, Mom. It's going to run really late. And you know how restaurants like that can be loud. You'd be exhausted before the main course even came." Seraphina. "I see." Leah. "There's the leftover soup from Tuesday. It should still be good." Then Leah is gone, footsteps on the stairs, the sound of a closet opening overhead. There are moments in a life that divided into before and after. This was mine. Seraphina sits in her chair and does not move for a long time. Through the sitting room wall she can hear them getting ready. Leah's heels on the floor. Clyde's aftershave. She can smell it from where she sits. Laughter. The quick, bright sounds of people going somewhere good. She looks around the sitting room. The new sofa Leah chose is not the one she would have chosen. The wall color Leah painted last year is not the one Seraphina had for 18 years. The photographs on the mantel have been rearranged. More of Leah and Clyde's wedding pictures now. And the one of Harlan and Seraphina at the coast has been moved to a side table where visitors won't necessarily see it. I try to remember when this stopped being my home and became theirs. I cannot find the exact day. That is the particular wickedness of it. It was never one day. It was 1,000 small Tuesdays. They come downstairs together. Leah looks beautiful. Genuinely beautiful, and Seraphina feels the complicated ache of a mother who loves her daughter and is also furious at her. Clyde barely looks at the sitting room as they pass through. The front door closes. Car engine. Reversing out of the driveway, her driveway. Tail lights receding. Silence. Seraphina gets up. Walks to the kitchen. Opens the refrigerator. Sees the soup container with her name on it in Leah's handwriting. She had put Seraphina's name on it weeks ago so Clyde wouldn't eat it by mistake. A practical label. A label that suddenly feels like a verdict. She closes the refrigerator without taking anything out. She walks to the hallway closet. She puts on her good coat, the charcoal one Harlan gave her for their anniversary 15 years ago, the one she saves for occasions that matter. From the inside pocket, she removes the envelope she has been carrying for 3 days. She walks to the kitchen. She sets the envelope on the table. She weights it with the ceramic rooster her mother Maybelle left her. She looks at the table for a moment, at the grain of the wood, at the mark from a candle that burned too low one New Year's Eve, at 22 years of a life. "Good night, Harlan," she says quietly, to no one and everyone. Then she picks up her keys and walks out her front door for the last time. 6 months earlier. A small law office on the quiet side of Brentwood Street. Seraphina's doctor, a careful woman named Dr. Pamela Turlow, had noticed Seraphina losing weight. Had noticed the careful way Seraphina answered questions. Had, at the end of a routine appointment, pressed a business card into her hand. Rufus Haskins. Good man. Knows his way around family property situations. Just in case. Seraphina had put the card in her coat pocket. She carried it for 2 weeks before she called. She sat in her car outside the law office for 11 minutes before she went inside. Rufus Haskins. Patient, precise, the kind of attorney who asks questions before he offers answers. Seraphina explained her situation over 2 cups of coffee she did not finish. Maximum 4 lines of dialogue. Rufus. The house is in your name alone? Seraphina. It always has been. Harlan and I put it in my name when we bought it. I never changed it. Rufus. And you've been paying the mortgage, the utilities, the property tax? Seraphina. Since the day he died. Rufus told her what she had not understood in 4 years of shrinking. She was not a guest in her own home. She was the owner. She had more choices than she had been allowing herself to see. I drove home that day with something I had not felt since Harlan's funeral. Not happiness, something sturdier than happiness. Purpose. The leather notebook. Seraphina began keeping it after her second meeting with Rufus, who suggested, gently, that records were useful. She noted dates. She noted amounts. She had been paying the mortgage, utilities, property taxes, household maintenance and groceries, largely on her own, with minimal contribution from Leah and Clyde, for 4 years. She had financed Clyde's car repair the previous winter when he asked with the particular tone of someone who was not really asking. She had quietly paid for Leah's work trip wardrobe refresh last spring when Leah mentioned, in front of her friend Lydia, in a way that made refusal uncomfortable, that she didn't have the right things to wear. The numbers in the notebook were significant. When you see it written down, it stops being family and starts being a transaction. A very one-sided transaction. 5 months ago, Seraphina listed the house with an estate agent in the next county, someone who did not know Leah, who would not mention it at the farmer's market. She showed the house on weekday mornings, telling Leah she was at her doctor's appointments or running errands. Both of these things were sometimes also true. The house received an offer in week 3. A young couple, the Bonners, with a baby daughter and genuine affection for the garden Seraphina had been tending for 22 years. They asked if the rose bushes along the south wall were original to the property. "I planted them myself," Seraphina told them. 30 years ago. "They'll take care of you if you take care of them." The Bonners promised they would. The closing was completed on a Wednesday, the day before the promotion dinner. A small lakeside town 3 hours north. Pearl Doolin, Seraphina's older sister, the person she should have been calling all along, had lived there for 9 years. Had been asking Seraphina to visit for 9 years. Had been met with polite deflection for 9 years because Leah somehow always needed something that weekend. 2 months ago, Seraphina had driven up alone on a Tuesday, telling no one, and walked through a 2-bedroom cottage on Wren Street with a porch that faced the lake and a kitchen with a south-facing window. She made an offer that afternoon. Pearl had cried when Seraphina called to tell her. Not sad crying, the other kind. Seraphina wrote it in 6 drafts. She is a former teacher. She knows the difference between words that wound and words that land. She did not want to wound. She wanted to land. The final letter, sealed in the envelope now sitting under the ceramic rooster, says what needed to be said, precisely and without performance. The audience gets a summary of what it contains. It tells the truth about the house, that it is sold, that the closing has occurred, that the new owners take possession tomorrow. It tells the truth about the money, the 4 years of support, the numbers from the notebook listed clearly. It tells the truth about what Seraphina needed and did not receive. Named without rage, stated without apology. It tells Leah about the small rental property on Dunmore Avenue that Seraphina inherited from Aunt Marilyn 17 years ago, and never once mentioned. It tells her the property is available. The rent is fair. Utilities are separate. And at the bottom, in Seraphina's clear schoolteacher's hand, "I love you. I have loved you since before you took your first breath. But love is not the same as disappearing. I should have known that sooner. Now I do." It is 9:40 at night when she pulls out of the driveway. The neighborhood is quiet. A neighbor's dog barks once and is still. The streetlights make pools of amber on the road she has driven for 22 years. She does not look in the rearview mirror. Harlan used to say that the secret to a good road trip was a full tank of gas and no map. I have both tonight. Well, I have the GPS. I am 67, not foolish. Her 3 suitcases. Her photograph albums. Her mother's ceramic rooster. She came back for it after setting the letter down. She was not leaving Maybelle behind. Harlan's watch. Her good knives, which she bought herself before she was married, and which are not going to live in anyone else's kitchen drawer. She did not take the furniture Leah chose. She did not take the expensive coffee machine Clyde bought for the house. She did not take the new throw blankets in the living room or the mirror Leah hung in the hallway without asking. She took herself. Turns out that was the most important thing. A roadside diner at midnight, somewhere past the county line. A young waitress named Carrie with ink on her wrist brings coffee without being asked and asks where Seraphina is headed. Short exchange, 3 lines. "Millhaven," Seraphina says. "Never heard of it. Neither had I 2 months ago. It's the right size for me." She leaves a good tip. She gets back in the car. "I have not eaten at a table by myself, paying my own check, choosing from a menu without worrying about anyone else's preferences, in longer than I can remember. I ordered the eggs. I ordered the toast. No one had any opinions about it. It was extraordinary." 11:15. Her phone lights up on the passenger seat. Leah's name calling from Hartwell's. Then again. Then a 3rd time. Seraphina turns the phone face down. She knows what has happened. Leah checked in on her, perhaps out of genuine concern, perhaps out of the habit of a woman who expects her arrangements to be in place when she returns. Either way, the phone is ringing because the envelope is on the table. Or perhaps they came home to the Bonners, who arrived early to measure windows and found a woman named Leah, and a man named Clyde who did not understand why their key was not working. I find I don't need to know exactly which one. Both of them are the truth now. 3:17 in the morning. The town is asleep. The lake is a flat dark mirror. The cottage on Wren Street looks small and exact and perfect. A porch light left on because Pearl had insisted on driving over to turn it on hours ago. Seraphina parks in the driveway. She sits for a moment. She looks at the front door. I thought I would cry. I was ready to cry. But what I felt instead was something I have not felt in a very long time. Quiet. The particular quiet of a place that belongs to you and you alone. Harlan, I thought. Here we go. She picks up her handbag. She gets out of the car. She walks up the porch steps. She opens the door to her own home. Seraphina was not there. But she can imagine it. And the narrator describes it with the careful, measured voice of someone who has had a lot of time to think. The dinner was lovely, no doubt. The right wine. The right lighting. Leah's toast for Clyde, which was polished and warm. Emmett Cross making a speech. Lydia and her husband laughing at exactly the right moments. And then Leah, at some point in the evening, reaching for her phone. I wonder when she called, before dessert or after. I wonder if she was checking on me out of care or out of the reflex of a woman who assumes her household is running smoothly because someone is running it for her. By the time Leah and Clyde returned home, the Bonners were on the porch, a young husband and wife, confused and apologetic, holding a document showing them as the legal owners of the property, having arrived to take measurements for the nursery. Maximum 4 lines of dialogue. Clyde. There's been some kind of mistake. Harlan Bonner, quiet, polite. I don't think there's been a mistake, sir. Our attorney confirmed the closing on Wednesday. The letter on the kitchen table under the ceramic rooster. Except the rooster is gone now, because Seraphina came back for it. The letter is held down by a glass of water she left on top of it, precisely. 17 missed calls. For voicemails. Seraphina listens to them the next morning at Pearl's kitchen table, over coffee and a plate of Pearl's shortbread, which Pearl makes for every crisis, large or small. The first voicemail. Leah, confused, trying to be calm. Where are you, Mom? Call me back. The second. Leah, less calm. The Bonners have been mentioned. The word sold is used in the voice of a person who cannot yet make it real. The third. Clyde, cold and precise, speaking the way he speaks to contractors who have disappointed him. This is a legal matter, and we will be pursuing it accordingly. The fourth. Leah, again much later. No performance now. Just her daughter's voice, raw and young and frightened, saying Mama. That one I had to put down. I listened to it 3 times. And then I made myself remember the soup container. My own name, written on a container of leftovers in my own home. And the sound on her end when she looked up restaurants and said, you know how you get. Pearl Doolin, 71, has strong opinions about most things and the confidence to express them. She is the person Seraphina should have been calling for 4 years. Short exchange, 4 lines. Pearl. You're not going to feel guilty. Seraphina. I didn't say I did. Pearl. You have your guilty face on. Seraphina. That's just my face. But Seraphina is smiling. And she realizes she has not smiled before noon and longer than she can track. Seraphina unblocks Leah's number long enough to send one message. I am safe and well. The solicitor's name is Rufus Haskins. He can answer any legal questions. The Dunmore Avenue property is available. Contact the letting agent whose number is in the letter. I need time and space. Please give me both. Leah's response comes in 40 seconds. Mama, please. Please call me. I don't understand any of this. Seraphina reads it. Sets the phone face down on Pearl's kitchen table. You will, she thought. That is the thing about clarity, it cannot be avoided forever. It will find you. I learned that myself, sitting alone in a kitchen with a soup container with my name on it. Leah will learn it too. Just not today. Today is mine. She makes coffee in her own kitchen for the first time. South-facing window. The lake is silver in the morning light. A bird she does not recognize sits on the garden wall and regards her without concern. She gets out her good mug. The one with the chip in the handle that she has kept for 11 years because Harlan bought it at a craft fair, and it holds heat longer than any other mug she owns. She sits at her small table. She looks at the lake. She drinks her coffee at exactly the temperature she prefers. No one asks her for anything. No one needs the cream. I had forgotten this was possible. That is perhaps the saddest part of what these 4 years took from me. Not the labor or the money or the disrespect, but this specific ordinary morning. I'm taking it back now. 3 days after arriving in Millhaven, Seraphina calls her younger daughter. Jacqueline answers on the first ring. She has been waiting. Short, warm exchange, 4 lines. Jacqueline. Mama. Tell me everything. Seraphina. How much do you know? Jacqueline. Leah called me 6 times. I heard her version. I want yours. Seraphina. Mine is longer. Jacqueline. I've got time. I talked for 2 hours. I cried twice, both times from relief, not sorrow. Jacqueline said very little except to confirm at intervals that she was still listening. When I finished, she said, Mama, I am so glad you got out. And something in my chest, which had been clenched for 4 years, came loose. Clara Bonner, no relation to the Bonners who purchased the house, lives 2 cottages east and has lived in Millhaven for 30 years. She comes over on Seraphina's 4th morning with a loaf of bread wrapped in a cloth and no agenda. Short exchange, 3 lines. You look like someone who just made a large decision, Clara says. Several, Seraphina says. Good. Come in for tea when you're settled. I want to hear all of it. There is a specific kindness in a person who is interested in who you are, rather than what you can do. I had almost forgotten what it felt like to be on the receiving end of it. Pearl volunteers at the Millhaven Community Center on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. She brings Seraphina the following Tuesday. Seraphina, who taught school for 23 years, finds herself in a room full of adults who need help navigating financial paperwork, insurance forms, pension questions, benefit statements. The coordinator looks at her resume and asks if she would consider leading a twice-weekly session. I said yes before she finished the sentence. And then I thought, I haven't said yes to something for myself in 4 years. It felt like learning a language I once spoke fluently and had nearly forgotten. 6 weeks after Seraphina left, a car she doesn't recognize parks on Wren Street. Leah gets out. She looks different, smaller in a way that has nothing to do with her size. She is not wearing her usual precision. She looks like a woman who has been having difficult conversations with herself and losing most of them. Seraphina sees her from the porch where she is drinking her afternoon tea. She does not hide. She sets her mug down. Leah comes up the path. She stops at the porch steps. Leah. You didn't tell me you were going. You just left. Seraphina. Yes. Leah. That wasn't fair. Seraphina. The soup container had my name on it, Leah. In my own home. In the refrigerator I bought. You wrote my name on the container so Clyde wouldn't eat my portion by mistake. A long silence. Leah. I didn't think about what that looked like. Seraphina. I know. That's the part one needed you to understand. Seraphina does not perform this conversation. She is not unkind. But she is clear in a way she has not permitted herself to be in 4 years. She tells Leah about the notebook. She does not read from it, she doesn't need to. She simply describes what it contains. 4 years of dates and amounts and incidents recorded in her clear, small handwriting. She tells Leah about the day Leah's friend Lydia asked if Seraphina was the help at one of their dinner parties, and Leah laughed and said kind of, and neither of them looked at Seraphina when they said it. She does not raise her voice. She does not cry. I had imagined this conversation would feel like a battle. It didn't. It felt like putting down something very heavy that I had been carrying for a long time. Leah does not argue. She tries once, begins a sentence about how things were difficult, how the pressures of Clyde's career, how she never meant, and then she stops herself. Seraphina lets her stop herself. Leah. I don't know how to fix this. Seraphina. You start by living on Dunmore Avenue and paying your own rent and cooking your own meals and understanding what that requires. Then we talk. Leah. And if I do all that? Seraphina. Then I'll answer the phone when you call on Sundays. Leah nods. She walks back to the car. She does not look like a woman who has won anything. She looks like a woman who has finally understood what she lost. The community center. Seraphina's session runs from 9 to 11. She has 11 regular participants. 3 of them bring her things from their gardens on the weeks when they are feeling grateful. A jar of preserved plums, late tomatoes, a bunch of lavender that Clara's neighbor grew. I stood in front of a classroom for 23 years. I forgot how much I loved it. How it feels to watch something click into place in someone's face. The particular light that comes on when confusion becomes understanding. Leah used to say, that I should relax now that I was retired. That I had earned the rest. She meant it kindly. But rest is not the same as life. Jacqueline arrives in Millhaven with her daughter Miranda, who is 6 and has Harlan's stubborn cowlick at the front of her hairline. A thing that makes Seraphina catch her breath every time she sees it. They spend a Saturday on the lake path, Miranda collecting stones and giving each one a name and a history she invents on the spot. Seraphina keeps 3 of the stones. She puts them on the windowsill next to Harlan's photograph. My younger daughter called me Mama before she even said hello. I did not realize how long I had gone without hearing it until it came back to me. Leah has been calling on Sundays. Not every Sunday, she misses some, and Seraphina does not track which ones. But most Sundays around 11 in the morning the phone rings. The calls are different now. Shorter but more real. Leah talks about the apartment, the small frustrations, the things she has had to learn to do herself. She talks about Clyde less, in a way that Seraphina notices but does not ask about. Once Leah said, "I made your chicken and rice last week." From memory. Seraphina had waited. "I never thought about how long it takes," Leah said. "I just thought, I don't know." That it appeared. Seraphina keeps a photograph of Harlan on the kitchen windowsill. Sunday mornings when the light comes in at the angle it does in early autumn, it catches the photograph and throws a warmth across the kitchen that she has come to think of as his. She talks to him sometimes. Not dramatically, just updates the way you update a person you have known for 40 years. I told him about Miranda and the stones. I told him about the lavender on the windowsill, and the lake in the mornings, and the way Pearl still makes shortbread for every crisis. I told him that I am sorry it took me so long to find my way back to myself. That I let grief make me small. That I thought being needed was the same as being loved, and I was wrong, and I know better now. He would have seen it sooner. He always did. Harlan had a talent for recognizing when I was fading and saying exactly the right thing. But he is not here. And I have had to learn to say it to myself. You deserve to be here, Sarah. That was his line. Not just present here. Occupying space. Taking up room. Matching. I am working on it. One evening in October. The lake has gone the color of old copper. Clara has gone home. Pearl called earlier and they made plans for the market on Saturday. Jacqueline has confirmed her visit for Thanksgiving. The first one in years. Seraphina sits on her porch with a glass of something warm and watches the sky change. She thinks about Leah. She thinks about what reconciliation looks like when it is honest, not the kind that asks the wrong person to quietly absorb everything so everyone can feel comfortable again, but the real kind. The slow kind. The kind that requires both people to tell the truth. She thinks it is possible. Not certain, but possible. And that, she decides, is enough for tonight. I was 67 years old when I learned the difference between keeping the peace and losing yourself in it. My mother Maybelle used to say, "The most dangerous thing a woman can do is make herself so small that people forget she was ever large." I thought she meant it as a warning for the young. I did not understand she was talking to me across time. I am here now. In a cottage on Wren Street with a south-facing kitchen and a porch that faces the lake, and a sister 2 streets over who makes shortbread and asks real questions and expects real answers. I am teaching again. I am sleeping well. I am drinking my coffee at the temperature I prefer. I have a daughter who is learning slowly what it costs to take a person for granted. I have another daughter who called me Mama before she said hello. I have a granddaughter who names stones and carries them in her pockets, and thinks this is perfectly ordinary. And every morning when the light comes through the kitchen window and finds Harlan's photograph on the sill, I drink my first cup and I say, I am still here. I chose to be here. And it is enough. It is more than enough. If you are watching this from somewhere far away, leave your city in the comments below. I want to know how far this story has reached.